Hello, everybody, and welcome to Electric City Sentai Denzicaster right here on Geek Carolina. I'm your host, Mike, and this week I am joined by
Will
and Chris.
And today, at Chris's request, we are checking out the first couple episodes of Kamen Rider Fourze.
Space Kata!
Okay, then.
So come on. You knew it was coming.
So we've checked out episodes 1 and 2. So episode 1, Youthful Transformation. Episode 2, Space Superiority. If you have not watched Kamen Rider Fourze, just a little bit of background, or if you know very little about it, Fourze was the 40th anniversary rider, quote unquote. During his season, it fell in 2012, which actually marked the 2011 into 2012. It marks the 40th anniversary year of Kamen Rider on television, quote unquote. Kamen Rider started in 1971, and so 40 years later, 2011, the first one was Kamen Rider O's, and then Kamen Rider Fourze, and they kind of share the title of being the 40th anniversary riders. In fact, there were 2 40th anniversary movies that came out connected to those 2 series. The main 40th anniversary movie, the actual tribute movie, was with O's, but Fourze and Oz's movie war that came out later is also an anniversary movie and also a tribute to the 40 years of Kamen Rider. They worked a lot of gags into Fourze specifically for that, even down to the "it takes 4 switches," his name is Fourze. Those are all riffs on 4 or 40. The main cast are all named in tribute to the original 7 riders, which was a really cool touch. This also marks the directorial debut in Japan of Koichi Sakamoto in Toei's work. Now, he had done one of the Ultraman movies prior to that, but this was the first thing he did for Toei, and there are even some Power Rangers nods for the eagle-eyed viewer in this, a tribute to his time spent here in the States. So, looking at the first couple episodes, it's your basic origin story. It's the origin of Kamen Rider Fourze and our main characters and kind of setting up the ensemble cast. Matter of fact, in the first 2 episodes, we are introduced to all 7 of our lead characters, even though they're not all treated as lead characters just yet. So, Chris has seen this show all the way through, as have I. This is Will's first exposure to Kamen Rider Fourze, and I loved your response at one point where you went, "Wait a minute, this is Kamen Rider?" So your first impression, since this is the first time you've ever seen anything with Fourze in it, your first impression of Kamen Rider Fourze.
I like it. I like it a lot, actually. He's especially like the main character and how he apparently wants to be friends with everyone.
That would be Gintaro.
The scene where I guess he's supposed to be trying to be chivalrous when who's the other?
Kingo
takes Yuki's letter and just tosses it off a bridge, or pass over on the way to school, and he just stops and goes "Hey, you're not supposed to throw away a pretty girl's letter." I was just like, "Yep, he's gonna be that." Yeah, it's funny. It's makes no bones about when he jumps from the bridge into the little channel and lands. He goes "Ah, that hurt," and then he starts crawling. And I was just like, "Okay, that's funny. I like this guy."
How long has it been since you watched Fourze, Chris?
Oh God, probably since its actual original airtime, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know that I've gone back and rewatched Fourze since 2011 either.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since I've watched this show all the way through.
And trust me, we watched week to week, and there was always a reason to watch, because there was always something going on.
The thing with Fourze is one of those Kamen Riders where, even though the character hasn't been on television since 2012, he's always been present in the Kamen Rider franchise, because the actor who plays him, which I'll find here eventually, the actor who plays him has made it a point to come back and do the movies and whatnot over time. So it's always really cool to see Gintaro come back. He's been in a bunch of the different movies, and so on. I always enjoyed the show myself when it first came out. This is for those people wondering at home, this series was Give me a second. The 13th Heisei Rider.
Oh,
I had to turn around and look at my figure arts on the wall. It was the 13th Heisei Rider. He was the third of what is now officially called the Phase 2 Heisei Riders. And he is realistically the final part of the Foundation X trilogy, because Double O's and Fourze, for all intent and purpose, are the same world, which is a massive departure from the previous Heisei Rider shows. All the previous Heisei Rider shows were their own individual worlds, whereas this is undoubtedly in the same world with its two predecessors, and in the same world with Wizard, which comes after it. What's going through your mind going back and seeing these episodes over again now?
It's funny because I actually take notice of like the little small quips and stuff like that. Like the background noises for the characters and stuff like that specifically, or when they're doing something wacky, like looking around the corner. Wink, wink, wink. You actually hear those
The Scooby-Doo moments.
Scooby-Doo moments. And I sat there, I was like, oh, I forgot. And then when you told me work for Power Rangers, I said, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Bulk and Skull and all that kind of stuff. Where they had their own music and they had the small little quips and stuff like that. And it makes sense. And I like that about this show. Because I mentioned that, I was like, man, this really feels cartoony. I completely forgot about this part. It's like,
and I love the fact that there are some winks and nods to Koichi Sakamoto's work on Power Rangers without being like over the top with it.
yeah.
I love the fact that you have the Bulk and Skullish sound effects at certain points. Even though it's called Amanagawa High School and Amanagawa is one word, even though it's Amanagawa High School, all of the lettering says AGHS, so Amanagawa, like it's two words, but if you stop thinking about it, it's also Angel Grove High School, so, and it's a high school-based superhero show, so I love that. I have forgotten in the years since how much I loved Gintaro on the show. Because he's awesome in the movies, but he's not necessarily the star in the movies. Yeah. Whereas here you get to see Gintaro in all of his glory, unabashed for the entirety of the whole damn thing. If you're trying to figure out at home who the different main characters equate to, Gintaro is supposed to be a tribute to Kamen Rider Stronger, which was the last of the 7 legendary riders, the original 7 Showa-era Kamen Riders. Kingo Urahashi, what is that? Is something dawning on you?
The occult girl, when she showed the video, those I recognized like the different. I recognized the different Kamen Rider outfits.
You had Rider 1, Super 1, Kuga, and Black. Were the 4 that were in the video.
Didn't know Kuga, knew Black.
Yeah. Curiously, Kuga was the only one of the Heisei era riders in the picture. They didn't show any of the other Heisei riders. Kingo Urahoshi is a tribute to Hongo Takeshi, which was Rider 1. Yuki Jojima, our female lead, is a tribute to Rider Man, who was Yuki Joji instead of Jojima. Miyu Kazushiro, which is our head cheerleader chick, is a tribute to Kamen Rider V3. Shun Daimonji is a tribute to Kamen Rider 2, which was Hayato Ichimonji. And the Kazushiro from Miyu is Shiro Kazami. And then JK, which is, we haven't gotten introduced to him by name yet, but JK is the delinquent kid that's always got the hoodie on his jacket and the spiky hair.
But he wasn't the link. He was the goof off.
Oh, yeah, he's one of the goof offs.
Oh, yeah,
he's one of the goof offs.
Yeah, he's one of the goof offs.
With the goofy hair and the hoodie under his jacket. JK is always ever called by initials, but that's a tribute to Jin Keisuke, so that's Kamen Rider X. And then the goth chick, which is Nozama. Nozama is Amazon spelled backwards. So she's a tribute to Kamen Rider Amazon. Okay. And they all have certain elements of those characters that they'll bring in periodically throughout the show. So, this being the first couple of episodes, we're not going to talk a lot about the plot as we've seen it set up because, quite frankly, it's an origin story. It's the first 2 episodes. It's how does he get his powers? We're introducing the toys and the equipment. What do we think of the designs?
At first, I will not lie. At first, I thought the design was a bit goofy, a bit outlandish. But then I was like, well, it's space, so he looks like a spaceship. So I was like, and I was like, well, I'll give him that. I can't really fault him for following the theme.
Yeah.
So, but I was just like, but the whole switch gimmick, I think, is what got me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought that was kind of a neat factor to it, where it's like, he switches them out, uses them. He can only do 4 at a time, but it's just the combinations you can do.
He gets a lot of use out of those ink cartridges.
He does.
Because you stop and look at it, that's what they look
That's
like.
what they exactly look like.
They look like inkjet cartridges.
They do.
How about you, Will?
I like the belt design. I actually do. I don't mind his actual rider costumes. I do. Was it Powderizer?
The Powderizer.
The Powderizer.
Mm.
I actually like that as a mecha, as like a secondary mech.
That is, unless Kamen Rider Fives had some mecha in it, but this was they have not put a whole lot of mecha in Kamen Rider over the years, and I enjoyed the Powderizer as a mecha. And the cool thing is throughout the series,
the design of it, dude. So
the really cool thing about it over the course of the series is they generally don't forget about it.
Okay,
that's
good.
It's not one of those things where it's only here until we get a number 2 rider and then it goes away. It'll go away for a little bit and then they'll bring it back and then it'll disappear for a little bit and then they'll bring it back. And you can half-ass explain that away as it's under repair or something, right?
Yeah.
What do we think of the Gumps? Well, not the Gumps, the Monsters of the Week, the Zodiarts.
That was what got me when I first saw it, when Yuki comes up and says, "That's the constellation for Orion. It's the Zodiarts." Like, it's almost immediate. Like, well, obviously, besides it's a gigantic monster. But I was like, oh, okay, so our bad guys are constellations.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like this gimmick. 100%. Now, later when we find out the big bads and what they are later on, we'll explain that later. But I thought that was a cool little concept that they were working with.
Have the monsters be based off of constellations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm with in that aspect. I want to see what the Taurus monsters going on.
And you'll have fun with that one, I guess. You will have fun with that one.
Let's see, Taurus and Scorpio. Those two.
Scorpio's funny.
Yeah.
Let's see what those look like.
But say there's a lot of different constellations and stuff like that. Because if you want to talk about, because the actual Zodiac constellation or the
well, they go beyond what we would think of as a Western Zodiac.
Yeah, it's Western Zodiac.
They're going because there's 50 something episodes. They're going to have to.
There's only 48.
Well, I always round up to 50 something.
Sorry, the reason I say that is because they happened to fall into the year that the Summer Olympics was going on, so they had to cut.
Yeah, they had to cut out some episodes. Myself, looking at the show and the designs on the show, I really do enjoy the monster designs. I will say they're not the best monster designs in Kamen Rider. They're not the most eye-catching, but they might be one of the most thematic. Like, to me, the most eye-catching are the Fangar, which is a horrible thing when you start to think that Kiva is only about 50% decent. I call Kamen Rider Kiva half of a good show. The show takes place in 2 different timelines. Part of it takes place in 2008, I think, and then the other half takes part in 1986. And the 1986 part is good, and the 21st century part is garbage. But so it's half of a good show. But the Fangar have a tremendous design style. To me, they're probably the most eye-catching. But here you've got such a strong theme with the constellations. When I first saw the Fourze suit, our friend of the show, Richie Loftus, and I had a lengthy conversation about this. And he said, "Man, isn't it great?" And I said, "No."
The what? Which suit?
The actual Fourze suit. This guy back here. You might not be able to
like I said, I don't mind the design of the suit. It's just kind of...
you can pick them up for a second and put them on camera. So
yeah, so in case you haven't seen Fourze, here he is. That's coming under Fourze. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick him up, but we'll set him there for the duration. When I first looked at it, I was like, okay, he's got a rocket ship for a head.
Yep.
He's got PlayStation controller buttons for limbs. Or did you miss that?
I caught that.
I'm going to show this to Will because they showed it in close up, and he was doing other things. Square, circle, X, triangle.
PlayStation, my friend.
So
I was like trying not to.
So my friend.
So they did all of that stuff with him, and I was like, it looks so goofy. It does not look like Kamen Rider. And the problem is, if you do see the suit standing by itself for the first time, it does look rather goofy as all get out. When the show aired, and you see the suit in motion, it got better. And initially, I had made the joke, it would be fine if you called it anything other than Kamen Rider. But by the time the series is over, no, it's Kamen Rider Fourze, and he earns that. And you know what you do with when you have a rocket ship for a head? You headbutt people with it, which he does throughout a lot of the series.
Yeah.
So anything in these episodes just stand out as, gosh, I loved it.
To be honest, I did like the way they have their school set up, or the way we're setting our settings for the show going forward. I liked it a lot because you could see where his goal of wanting to be friends with everybody was going to be a huge conflict immediately.
Right.
Not necessarily with Kengo right at the beginning, but with everybody.
Right.
Because there's a status quo where if you're a delinquent, you stick with the delinquents. If you're with the goof offs, you're with the goof offs.
There's definitely cliques.
There's the cliques. Like, you are in those cliques. Like, you don't branch out. You don't do all this other stuff. And that's the way the school's set up. So immediately, if there was something about this show that really stood out for me, it's the fact that his immediate goal was already hitting a roadblock without him really ever doing anything.
Right. How about you, Will?
Character interactions actually was one of the fun things about this movie. Or not movie, I'm sorry, I said movie. This show so far that I enjoyed. Like, just like,
Gentaro?
Yeah, Gentaro's, like, interactions with not just Yuki and, Kingo. Not just them, but just everybody in general. His interactions were were all pretty entertaining or funny in some way, shape, or form.
Gentaro to me was the thing that I loved when I first watched this show, and again, just reminding myself how much I love the character watching this. I guess one other thing to touch on, which I accidentally skipped, the music, which I do not normally harp about the music in the Kamen Rider show because usually the music is very status quo, but the Foundation X trilogy, from Double to Fourze, every single show had damn good music. And I love the Fourze theme itself, which is by Anna Tsuchiya, a musician who had a little bit of fame in the U.S. at one point, I think.
Yes. If you've heard Anna Tsuchiya sing anything at all through any form of anime, you might recognize it from Nana. Because she pretty much does every song that's in that show. And her English, at least at the time, for sure, was pretty much spot on for a lot of that that they used.
Yeah, she wound up moving back to Japan at a certain point, and her English kind of atrophied off a little bit just from being out of practice. But I loved her theme song. I love the Henshin theme. I love the background music. But I mean, there's no piece of music in this show that I dislike, with one exception, and it'll come later. But Meteor's theme is garbage.
I agree with that.
Fight me, don't care. It's a horrible theme song for a writer.
Awesome character, but that music.
Yeah, it's the one bad thing about Meteor. So, anything in these episodes we just looked at and went, oh god. I'll go first. No.
I was gonna say, not really. I mean, just for the first two episodes, no. I won't lie. As we get further into the series, there's a lot.
There's some cringeworthy stuff to come, but it's a Toku show. What do you expect? But for the first two episodes, this is home run to me.
Okay.
what are we looking forward to going forward for any future Fourze that we check out?
Character designs, honestly, I really am looking forward to like how they deal with a lot of the astrological, zodiac, and other signs, turning them into monsters and what they're going to represent. I'm actually really looking forward to that, and more of Gantaro, and more of him because he's like awesome. I'm now a fan of his.
I'm actually
Not the rest of the show. I'm just a fan of his. I just want to see his.
That's fair. I actually just look forward to everyone's characters moments, especially when we start getting into the actual the true introductions of the rest of our cast, because that becomes a lot of it becomes a big deal by the time we get to that point.
Yeah, I love the fact, and I'm looking forward to seeing the main 7, because more than a lot of Kamen Rider shows, and I would probably argue more than a Kamen Rider show that has a ton of writers. Because if you look in the years before and since, there have been shows that have a ton of writers in them, like Ryuki or Kabuto or Gan, all have a bunch of writers, but it never feels like an ensemble cast. This show winds up with a core of about 8 or 9 characters, and it feels like an ensemble the entire time. They do a very good job of making you care about every single member of the Kamen Rider Club as it develops over the course of the show. I would have never thought that a goofy dude with a spaceship for a helmet and a civilian identity of being a bancho delinquent being the greaser kid, would be one of the most awesome Kamen Riders I've ever seen, period. So, with that in mind, we hope you enjoyed everything this week on Denzicaster. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. Either way, let us know in the comments below. Please share, like, subscribe. Check out the links down below for links to all of our social media, as well as to our stores at Redbubble and Cafe Press, where you can help us out by picking up some cool merchandise. We'd appreciate it. And if you would like to see us cover more Fourze, let us know in the comments below. Right now, with the exception of pretty much Jetman and Spider-Man, we're sort of in a holding pattern for a lot of what we're covering. Those 2 shows we watch a little bit of every time we get together to tape, but everything else we're kind of just picking and choosing, and what do we feel like watching this week. But if there's something you really want to see us talk about, you see one of these reviews and you really, really like it, please let us know. And if you don't want us to watch Fourze, you don't want us to see it, and whatnot, let us know. If you want us to watch it, let us know and talk about it here on the channel. Either way, by the look in William's eyes and his motions, Chris's life could be in the palm of your hands based off of your decisions. Because he's making motions towards this sword. So, folks, until next time,
William.
I'm Chris.
I'm Mike. We'll see you next time on Denzicaster.
Yeah.